Hi, good evening, friends. Today we are here with our special session with Dr. Julian Zapata from Canada, who runs his own company. His native place is in Colombia, and he is a doctor with masters in translation. He has been very active in promoting the concept of interactive translation dictation. So he has developed certain tools and technology also by which by voice to speech, from speech to text, you are able to type and speed up your translation, writing, as well as all such, required processes in which we use languages. So with this, uh, I would also like to welcome Dr. Julian Zapata to interact with our interns for 2018, who has been very active in learning, doing exercises, doing experiments, and collaborating with Modlingua. I again welcome you all for this special session. I hope with Dr. Julian, we will be able to learn more and speed up our activities as a translator, content writer, proofreader, as well as editor. Now over to Dr. Julian, please.
Thank you, Ravi. That was one of the best presentations or introductions I've had. So thank you for inviting me to talk about this topic very close to my heart: interactive translation dictation. Not only did I do a master's and a PhD in this topic, but I'm also running my own translation technology startup. This is the main topic of our research and development. So we're going to be talking about interactive translation dictation. Don't worry if you don't know what it is, you will know by the end of this talk. And then you will also be able to learn to experiment with it as well. So if I were facing you right now, I would have you do this exercise. So basically, this is something you can do on your own to test your own typing speed and accuracy. So whenever you have time later, you will do a typing test on this website. It's called 10fastfingers.com. So basically, for 1 minute, you will be typing a text. Not even a text, it's just a series of words. And it's a little bit like karaoke. You will be typing and it will be just counting down the time. After 1 minute, you get a result. So you get a screenshot of your typing, a summary of your typing skills. So basically, I did this exercise just before this lecture. And I think I'm getting worse at typing because now I only get 22 words per minute in English. What is more important, even more important than words per minute, is that you get the key number of keystrokes and the typing accuracy. So in my case, my typing accuracy is 82% because 14 out of 123 words that I typed were wrong keystrokes, were keystrokes that were errors, right? And I got 3 wrong words and only 20 were correct. So this should give you an idea of your own typing abilities and should make you reflect about whether the keyboard is the best way to input any text on computers. With the introduction that Ravi gave, I think you already know where we're going with this. So I'm sure I don't have to give you much background about the translation industry, but just to give you some context for my presentation, we're talking about a very large industry and one of the most important in the world. Actually, our industry and our profession is so important that we make it possible for 7 billion people around the world to communicate in 7,000 languages. And don't forget that there are many countries like India and Canada and many more that have 2 official languages. And don't forget the European Union, where they have 24 official languages. So not translating is not an option in this world. And yet, only a small fraction of the information that is created every day is professionally translated or localized. And translators of nowadays are unable to cope up with that demand. So while I don't really need to convince you about the importance of translation, one of the things I like to bring is to examine a little bit of the history of translation. I'm not a translation historian, but what I like is to sort of think of how translation and how we have evolved with the evolution of tools, at least for written translation. If you're familiar with the image on screen right now, you know the Rosetta Stone. If you don't know what it is believed to be one of the earliest written translations in the world. So this fascinates me just to imagine how translators have used tools throughout history, from stone engraving tools to ink pens to typewriters. Nowadays, what we have most commonly are personal computers. So today, what we have at best is a laptop computer connected to the web and access to all these computer-aided assisted translation tools, or even online databases and dictionaries and etc. So we have an array of tools that have been developed in an effort to make translators work more efficient. But the problem with all these CAT tools and all the other resources that we have on the web is that all these tools are still very much dependent on the traditional keyboard and are still leading users to frustration and even to developing all kinds of illnesses and diseases. As a matter of fact, not only in translation, but also in a number of domains, many studies have demonstrated that the traditional keyboard and mouse PC uh, is a major impediment for human cognition, performance, and even is the major cause for developing all kinds of work-related diseases like repetitive stress injury. Uh, it's a very um, critical topic right now, as more and more translators are reporting having all kinds of illnesses and discomfort uh, due to the computer work. So just to give you an example, so this is an example that I like. I came up with. It's from the French language. So if you know a little bit of French, so you can probably follow this up with me. So basically, when you want to type something like Monsieur Vignon in French on a traditional keyboard, what you get, so you have to type. So for Monsieur, you need 9 keystrokes. So you need Shift M, that is already 2, and then ONSIUR, and then you need 1 keystroke for the space bar, and then keystrokes for the Vignon, right? So you got Shift B, then IGNEAULT. And basically, when you say it, you realize that you only have 9 speech sounds. So you have 20 keystrokes for what you can say using 9 speech sounds. It sounds a little bit silly, but when you thoroughly investigate it, and I have done a lot of experiments with this as well, or a larger scale, when you compare people's typing versus their normal, you can almost always prove that you need twice as many keystrokes as you need speech sounds. And that is even without considering your typing skills. So remember that 1 minute typing skill test that you could have done or that I did in the beginning. So if you're really slow typist, you can take at least 3 to 7 times more time to type something you can say, right? So I hope it's clear up to there. So kind of a basic introduction is like, I did not take this picture, of course, but I think it's very representative of where we want to go with this, is that we are pretty much done with the mechanical keyboard, and we need to start coming up with different strategies and different methods for inputting text on computers. And the good news is that we already have that, and we are already facing a new era of human computer interaction. So today we may still have the keyboards around, but we have more and more hybrid computers, tablets that are touchscreen, and even keyboardless fully. And so everything, we're starting to interact with computers differently. Our applications are no longer installed on our computers; they're cloud-based. So in translation, we also have to adapt to these changes. So what we're doing is we're sort of harnessing the best of speech, touch, and mobile and cloud technologies today to bring translation dictation back. So we're going to talk about translation dictation even before we talk about interactive translation dictation, because this is not something that we're making up. This is basically something we are bringing back from the days before personal computers. So before we typed on computers, translators used to dictate. So they would work in collaboration with secretaries who took care of what we call peripheral tasks in translation. So the translator, as you can see in this image, is side translating a text. So let's say that the text is in French and the translator is speaking in English, and somebody else is taking care of the transcription of the dictation. So the translator focuses on what he or she does best, and somebody else takes care of the peripheral task. In this case, typing, but also the assistant would assist the translator in looking up information on the web and also revising the final text, editing the final text. This was done either in person, as you see on the picture, but also using recording devices like a cassette voice recorder or even a handheld dictaphone. So until very recently, it was a very common practice. But now with voice recognition technology, we're starting to bring this back. So conventionally, back in the 60s and 70s, as I just said, the translator would speak the translation to a transcriptionist or would use a dictaphone. Now we have the option to do it voice recognition software for personal computer if what you have is a PC. But where we want to get to is to interactive translation, where the voice recognition software is embedded on a multimodal device. And we're going to get to what multimodal interaction is. So you can start doing this type of exercises. I'm going to do a small demo. Um, I hope I'm going okay with time. So you can do this exercise. You can have somebody play the role of the transcriptionist. And I'm just going to do this one slide, but this is something you can do. So I'm going to just side translate. It's going to take me a few seconds this into Spanish. So I'm going to do it. So Facebook celebra su cumpleaños. Facebook, la red social más grande del mundo, está celebrando su cumpleaños. En un artículo de blog, el fundador del sitio, Mark Zuckerberg, afirma que Facebook continuará trabajando tan duro como lo ha hecho en los últimos años para seguir siendo el sitio de comunicación número 1 en la web. Comenzó en un dormitorio universitario en 2004 y hoy en día tiene 2.000 millones de usuarios activos. So this is just an example of a side translation. So if you have somebody type as you speak, then you have a translation dictation. So you can also do this exercise. If you don't have someone to type, you can also try recording yourself. So if you have your phones, you can always use the voice recording app on your smartphone and record yourself doing a side translation. So basically you can print out a copy and do this exercise on your own. So print out the copy, you record yourself, and then you get more and more familiarized with this technique. This is something you can start doing on your own. So just basically once you have done this exercise enough, I think you are more and more ready to start using voice recognition technology for translation dictation purposes. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of what has been done in translation, not only research, but also practice. So some translators have actually employed voice recognition software for dictating their own translations. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the technology. So voice recognition software, so it's voice to text technology. So basically when you speak and the computer transcribes for you. So it's that simple. So the different software out there can be either speaker dependent, which means that the software will only understand you and nobody else. But with the evolution of the technology, we have come up with speaker adaptive technology, which means that basically anyone can use the software, but you still have to adapt it to your own voice and profile. And now we have speaker independent systems, which basically anyone can speak into any system and you don't need to train The system doesn't need to know who is out there talking to it. So the different software can be used, as I said, on a PC, where you can connect a headset, just like my friend Ravi is wearing one right now, or you can also have like a wireless headset on a laptop. So you can be more and more mobile, but in the best case scenario, you would have a cloud-based system on your mobile device. And this is a little bit where we want to get to. So the system won't be installed on your on your device. It will be cloud-based, and basically you can access to it from anywhere uh, through the cloud, via the cloud. So just to give you a little bit of a little example of translators' motivation. So this is a little comes from my master's research. So translators have different motivations for using voice recognition technology. So the first and foremost, as I told you, translators are developing all kinds of illnesses related to typing extensively on a computer keyboard. So they have reported discomfort on and back pain, wrists, fingers, shoulders, eyes, cramps, repetitive stress injury. So this is something that is irreversible. So once you have a chronic illness, you cannot go back. So translators are using voice recognition technology first and foremost for ergonomic reasons, also for productivity. So the demand currently exceeds typing capacity, so no one can type as fast as they can speak. Even the fastest typist ever can't really, speak, type as fast as they can speak it. So I'm repeating myself there, but um, the actual accuracy gains that are possible. So some translators have reported to have even doubled or even tripled their efficiency. So one person even says, since I use voice recognition technology, I can do between 8,000 and 13,000 words per day. Of course, this depends on your own typing capacity and the language combination. Some translators say they use voice recognition technology to increase the quality of their work because they can concentrate, they can focus on the source text, they have more time to prepare the source text, therefore they can produce a better quality text, and it's less cognitive effort. So it's less tiring for the brain when you speak a translation than where you're typing. So I'm gonna go really fast on this. You can always contact me if you want more details on, the different ways that translators have been using voice recognition technology. So they use it for straight dictation, for issuing commands to the system, to combine them with different translation environments or CAT tools, despite the bugs. But even more importantly, I want to highlight this third dimension. So some translator says, I combine speech and typing and mouse. So it is a third dimension. It's just an extra modality, an extra option that I have. And another thing I want you to keep in mind is the mobility, right? So some translators say, I use a wireless headset and I walk around the room while still working. So this is very interesting. There are some difficulties. So with the traditional software, so incompatibilities with CAT tools, problem with sound cards, processors. Surrounding noise is just like the dog that is just barking. I don't know where it's coming from, but that is a problem in a voice dictation environment as well. So that happens a lot. Low quality of microphones, headsets, poor performance in languages other than English, and not able to perform your task bilingually. So I just want to give you an example. This is a translator's spontaneous comment on what the actual advantage. So I just want to read this through because I think it's very important to what is coming next. So a translator said this about voice recognition technology. So they say the real advantage is that you need not be glued to your desk, but you can wander around the room and get some footwork in while dictating, provided you use a wireless headset. I've been doing just that for the past 2 years or so. Set up my room so I can see the screen from virtually any point in my room, and added a wireless keyboard and mouse in an elevated position so I can intervene manually anytime without having to return to my desk to sit down. Walking refreshes both body and mind. Getting away from your screen broadens your horizon, not just visually, but also mentally. So this is the sort of the evolution of the voice recognition for PC that we envision is that we go mobile. We take it with us on our mobile devices. Therefore, we need to develop the software and adapt it to our task and to have it available and accessible from our mobile devices. So this is just a reminder that us in translation, as I told you in the beginning, we're still somewhere stuck. If we keep typing our translations on the traditional keyboard, we're missing something as we are moving beyond even the mobility computer era. We're going to have more and more computers um, everywhere, and we need to be able to access our tools and our software from any device and anywhere we are. So we have all the pieces of the puzzle there. So what we're doing is exploring beyond voice recognition technology only. We are exploring multimodal interaction, which includes voice recognition, but as well touch, sometimes even gesture, even gaze. So there are many ways we can interact with computers, and there are many ways we can adapt those interactive modes to our translation environments as well. So multimodal interaction isn't new. So it all started back in the 80s. So even ever since we have computer keyboards, we have been exploring alternatives to the keyboard because it hasn't been that popular in most contexts, even more when you're performing natural language communication tasks. So you want to come up with something else than the keyboard. So this is an experiment that was done in the 1980s. So they put that their experiments. So basically, the person is interacting multimodally. So this is a spoken command combined with gesture. So you're basically saying to the system, put that while pointing, say the purple circle there. So you're basically combining both. So what is multimodal interaction? Multimodal interaction is the combination of different input modes. In this case, it's a voice command and gesture. This is something we can already start doing in translation as well. So interacting with our devices using both our voice and even gestures or touch interaction on our touch screens. So it has been done in many ways. So I'm pretty sure you have many examples of multimodal interaction. So this is just to show that it isn't necessarily new. We have been researching on multimodal interaction for many, many years now. And today, the best examples that we have, the multimodal devices that we have, and everybody has access to them, are tablets, touchscreen computers, and mobile phones, smartphones. So the advantages of multimodal interaction and what we expect from multimodal systems for translation and therefore interactive translation dictation is the recognition of natural forms of human language and behavior. Natural language processing is easier for the system. Of course, efficiency gain. This is something us in the translation industry are very interested in, is improving our efficiency, our productivity, and the possibility, I like this word, I like to stress it, is the possibility to combine input modes or to alternate between them. So it's all about giving you the option. If you have the possibility, if you have the option, why not do it? So you can speak, you can touch, you can type, but it's always about having the option. Reduce cognitive effort. We also expect the translators will be less frustrated and a little bit less stressed, if you like. And of course, the mobility and the user satisfaction. So all this comes from the literature in multimodal interaction, and these are the expected advantages of our own interactive translation dictation environment in the future. So this is where we want to get, right? Interactive translation dictation is a little bit beyond voice recognition software for PCs, beyond all the frustration and even all the incompatibilities and all the problems that translators have reported in the past. So we want to make voice recognition accessible from your multimodal devices, as I just said, from your tablets, from your PC, from your mobile devices, from your smartphones. So beyond the traditional dictation at the production, so we envision that our translation dictation environment will be present throughout the process. So from preparing the text to producing the text to revising the text. So in the preparation, you will be able to do some voice commands to retrieve the information on the web. Of course, the dictation of the translation, so the transcription is done by the system, and you only can always use the virtual keyboard and point on the technology side. So that's why we are preparing for this. So we're taking care of the technology challenges, and we're developing and adapting the technology. But you on your side, as translator, translation, you can really start using a speech to text software uh, today and do well with it. So you need to practice and you need to do the exercise even before you try the technology. So the exercise, the slide presentation that I gave you, is something you can already try doing. So the text, the translations that you've been doing, or you can pick any text on the web and give it a try, right? So you can try doing this side translation, pick a translation, and you can have somebody type for you. You can record yourself, and very soon we will be making available this application that you will be able to use uh, for self-training. And we're also developing an online course, so you will be able to access this technology and this application, so you can self-train and get ready for the upcoming applications as well, where voice recognition technology will be adapted to the translator's workstation throughout the process. So you will be able to dictate efficiently and use the technology efficiently as well. So that's about as much time as I had, I believe, but I want to take answers, of course, but even after today, I want you to join the conversation, to follow us on social media, to send me your questions, and even stay in touch so we can make you a better user of our online course and our self-training application very soon. We're going to be making it available. So if you're interested in this topic and if you think there is future and you're excited about speaking a translation, instead of typing, stay in touch and join the conversation. And I'm happy to take questions now. Thank you